Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you for joining us. I am Laura Gloria with the Center for Sustainable Infrastructure, and today we're going to be talking about the Washington Industrial Symbiosis Technical Assistance Program. I'd love to introduce our Executive Director, Reese Roth, to do some welcome remarks before we get started. Reese?
Laura, thank you. This is super exciting. Um, gosh, I feel like one of the luckiest people on earth because I've had the privilege to see industrial symbiosis in action on week-long study tours in Denmark with about 250 elected leaders, business leaders, agency leaders, local innovators from the Pacific Northwest. We've traveled over to the birthplace of industrial symbiosis, Denmark, wonderful country, and we've seen it in just a variety of contexts and at the highest level concept of industrial symbiosis where the waste from one industry is recovered, repurposed into a valuable input for other industries and major facilities. Um, and at the heart of industrial symbiosis is collaboration and sort of the integration across the silos. So rather than looking at energy as isolated from water, as isolated from materials and organics, that these are looked at as more integrated infrastructure systems. And industrial symbiosis is bringing people together that maybe are focused on their business line, the fence line of their operations day in and day out, and saying, hmm, what are your waste streams? What are your resource flows, energy, water, materials? What are yours? Could there be a match here that's mutually beneficial, mutually economically beneficial, and maybe even deliver sustainability benefits along the way? Denmark is incredibly innovative uh, in this arena. The concept of industrial symbiosis was invented in Kalundborg 50 years ago, and it's really spread across the country. But these 250 leaders who toured Denmark from the Pacific Northwest have come back and have been innovating and igniting projects in communities across the state and across the Pacific Northwest. Um, Also, Washington State has really become the national leader in industrial symbiosis, in part due to the leadership of our elected officials and our legislators. Uh, about 40 Washington state legislators have joined these tours of Denmark to see industrial symbiosis in action. 20 have been Republicans, 20 have been Democrats. They've been from all over the state, and they've come back with an appetite to collaborate to move this concept forward in communities of all shapes and sizes throughout the region. They've passed policy and funding measures now in 8 legislative sessions running, including in 2025, where they made a first in the nation investment to stand up a new industrial symbiosis technical assistance program. And we're here today to talk about the opportunity for communities to apply to receive that kind of technical assistance. The reason this is so important is because industrial symbiosis isn't simply business as usual. This isn't how we've done it for the last 30 years. And so we don't really need to talk or we don't really need much assistance. It's all dialed in. No, industrial symbiosis is about collaboration. It's about, which is involves a lot of complexity. It also involves conversations among people who maybe haven't had conversations to look at opportunities that they hadn't even considered. In every community that we've worked with around industrial symbiosis, you see people coming together whose facilities may be nearby, but they haven't really talked about resource flows and opportunities for shared infrastructure that they could both benefit from. And so it's kind of a eye-popping discovery experience. We're on a great learning journey together. So, all that to say, the Washington State Legislature invested in this new industrial symbiosis technical assistance program to help communities convene local industry, local facilities, local stakeholders, and explore their industrial symbiosis opportunities. And I'm really proud that we're able to, thanks to the Department of Commerce, who's been operating and standing up the program for the Washington State Legislature. And we were fortunate enough to receive a contract to, to implement, stand up this program on Commerce's behalf. And I'm just super proud of the team that's come together. So the communities that are selected for this will get an unprecedented level of industrial symbiosis expertise, firepower, capability, support to help move industrial symbiosis park proposals forward in the selected communities. It's super exciting. I'm really pleased that Laura Gloria has joined the CSI team to manage this program. She's super capable. So I just want to hand it over to her.
Thanks, Reese. Thanks for that welcome. Well, let's dive right in. Let me share my screen here. Um, so again, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to cover the Industrial Symbiosis Technical Assistance Program. As Reese mentioned, the Center for Sustainable Infrastructure, CSI, as I'll use for short, was selected to implement this program through a competitive RFP. A couple of housekeeping items for our note takers today. We will send out the PowerPoint. We are also recording this webinar, and so if you missed something or want to come back to it, we will send that out afterwards. For questions, there should be a Q&A function in the Zoom call. Please save your questions in there, and we will have plenty of time at the end to go over those questions. And for anything that we don't have time for, we'll follow up. So let's review our agenda. So today we are reviewing what is industrial symbiosis. Let's kick it off with that, and then do an overview of the goals and outcomes of the Washington Industrial Symbiosis Technical Assistance Program. We'll then go over how that program will be delivered, that technical assistance delivery process, which teams and which experts are delivering that work, including CSI and a technical team, as well as Angmar Tech. How to apply, and then of course the Q&A that was mentioned earlier. So what is industrial symbiosis? Reese did a really great job of covering it, but here's a repeat. Industrial symbiosis is the practice of harvesting waste streams, energy, water, and materials from one industry to be repurposed as a valuable resource for another industry. Industrial symbiosis was pioneered in Denmark, specifically in the city of Kalundborg. Over the past 50 years, Denmark has been really the leader in industrial symbiosis and setting up structures where industries are collectively sharing resources and providing value to one another. In Kalundborg, they also went one step further and created a nonprofit called Kalundborg Symbiosis, which aims to create sustainable development through joint projects. They have members who engage and facilitate with external parties, universities, and visitors, and all in the hopes of continuing to identify and initiate new projects. They really are this center of knowledge on industrial symbiosis, or IS. The other really exciting thing about Kalundborg Symbiosis is they are one of the technical partners that will be helping deliver this program. And I'll talk about that a couple of slides in. So even though this was pioneered in Denmark, there's a lot going on here in Washington State. Several communities in Washington State have started efforts, are in the middle of efforts, including the city of Wenatchee, the city of Vancouver, and the Clallam Economic Development Council through wastewater opportunities at the municipal level, and then looking at a popular one right now is biochar. And so Port Angeles is looking into turning wood waste into feedstock, expanding markets for biochar, and so on. These are just some of the projects that are currently happening in Washington. We have more information on these projects and others on our website. I'll provide our website at the end of the webinar as well if you want to learn more. So this funding is funded through the Climate Commitment Act, and this technical assistance program really hopes to further the development of industrial symbiosis in Washington. So here, this program continues to pioneer that IS movement, and thanks to strong bipartisan support, the program was created and managed through the Department of Commerce and has set aside $2.4 million to support this technical assistance program. So let's talk about the program. So the Industrial Symbiosis Technical Assistance Program, the main goal of it is to provide, to support the development of industrial symbiosis proposals statewide, emphasizing projects that benefit rural areas and overburdened communities, reducing greenhouse gas emission, benefiting local economies. What are industrial symbiosis park? These are shared sites, really more shared resources or properties where organizations co-locate or partner in the use of resources through integrating waste streams, production processes, such as waste materials, wastewater, or waste heat. Um, Shared sites don't necessarily have to be physically connected on one property. It is all about connection as a whole and sharing as a whole and collaboration. But that real part is the partnering use of resources. I really want to focus on the first slide, or I'm sorry, the first bullet here too, is this is the key deliverable of this program is supporting the development of industrial symbiosis park proposals. That is the outcome and what we're hoping to deliver in 6 distinct communities. So at the end of the program, for those communities that are selected to continue, they will receive in hand a fully vetted development proposal that will move a project to the next stage in the approval process. So basically, we will get those projects or those communities to a state where they are ready to look for capital project funding or get into preliminary design into those implementable stages. And we will have determined feasibility of those projects or community concepts in the next 12 months. What do those industrial symbiosis development proposals include? So this is what we will have in each of those communities by the end of the timeline here. So we will have identified project locations. We will have identified waste streams and analysis of potential reuse opportunities. We will work with stakeholders and local community leaders to identify participating or prospective stakeholders and really further conversations on partnerships, governance structures, setting the stages for letters of understanding or memorandums of partnership. We'll look at potential funding opportunities for future implementation, including matching projects with certain funding pots. We'll look at cost benefit analysis, including economic impacts, and then set or discuss some defined pathways for implementation on next steps. I really want to call out here that the technical assistance is available to communities in different phases of development. So you don't have to have a project location right now, but we will need each community's help in helping identify those. And so there does need to be a capacity to provide that support in getting access to data, getting access to stakeholders, and working with communities locally to develop these things. Here's some fine print. So here are the eligible entities. It's pretty broad, and I think that's really great so that we can really have a wide net on how many people are at the table to help identify opportunities. That last bullet point here for those entities who have previously received technical assistance from Washington, if you're deciding to apply for this funding, just really focus on activities that help make a distinction between prior work and are additive and augmenting former activities. So with that, now we will go through how we are going to deliver this program. So the technical delivery process is really set out in a collaborative approach. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of coordinating with stakeholders and a lot of conversations about those structures on top of the assessments and waste stream identification. It's almost 50-50. But the base of industrial symbiosis is really collaboration. So our approach is to set out to collaborate with those industry stakeholders and partners and bring in those technical experts to help develop plans and priorities. We have created a structured but very scalable four-phased approach to implement the work. And I'll go over those four phases here now. So phase one focuses on building a shared understanding among key stakeholders and aligning around a set of local IS opportunities. So phase one, you look at the title, it's alignment and discovery. And so I won't go through each of these bullets. These are the activities that will happen during that phase, but it really is around understanding existing industrial systems and infrastructure realities and participating in idea generation around potential opportunities. So this is the place where we'll really look to the local communities or the applicants to help us bring people to the table. The wider net that we can put out is the more opportunity for discovering those connections and those partnerships. So that's what phase one is. It's let's bring it all to the table, figure out what's available, and start to craft some goals for where we want to be at the end of this process. Phase two is capital project refinement and feasibility screening. So it moves from that phase one idea, what's possible, to starting to do some preliminary concepts and starting to narrow down that funnel of ideas to feasible opportunities. Phase one starts to define each of those project opportunities at a capital project level. And so defining scopes, looking at infrastructure, identifying implementation risks, starting to do some cost framing. And so really at this point, we're trying to figure out what's feasible and what's not. So only concepts that really demonstrate that technical plausibility and have that layer of stakeholder alignment. That part, I'll keep repeating it because it's so important that we want to make sure that the community and the stakeholders are all in alignment with how they will participate and move on. And so that partnered with the technical plausibility is what starts to get refined and kind of sifted out. What are the top priorities and or projects in phase two? In phase three, by the end of phase three, that's where we end up with that fully vetted project proposal, but there's a lot of work to get to there. So in phase three, we are further refining, we are reconvening with the stakeholders again to validate assumptions. We're facilitating a project prioritization process to identify which, industrial symbiosis park or parks from makeup is the most feasible, and then really digging in further into the implementation pathways, including identifying a potential lead organization who can further the work after this planning process is done. And so this is really finalizing what the priority project or park is and furthering a step more by setting up the next steps for implementation. But by the end of this process, again, we will have that fully developed project proposal with all of those different elements that I covered earlier with the project location and down to an implementation pathway. Phase four strengthens selected projects through additional feasibility. So phase four is for those who are maybe further along and or time allowing places where we can or need to further the analysis to get more information. While this is a structured four-phase approach, again, it is scalable and flexible to each community. The phases are not intended to be rigid or linear, but they are made to continue to make decision points throughout the process to further along those concepts or idea. Phase four is really furthering the concept at the end of phase three to the extent that we can, time and budget and needs allowing, of course. So now that we've reviewed the process, let's meet the experts and the team ready to help. So the team that is furthering this work is us, the Center for Sustainable Infrastructure, as well as the technical team that we've compiled together of a variety of experts. And Angmar Tech was also awarded funding through the Department of Commerce to further this work. And they are aligning with the four-phase process at a facility level. I'll explain that here in just a sec. So about CSI, CSI will be the administrative agency. We are leading the technical assistance program and facilitating the deployment of the various experts and technical expertise to all of the various communities. CSI is not new to industrial symbiosis and has really helped pioneer a lot of that momentum and movement over the past half decade. CSI has deployed similar programs or similar technical assistance in municipalities in the Pacific Northwest. They've also led multiple study tours to Denmark, to Kalundborg, and in partnership with our Danish partners to take Pacific Northwest leaders, businesses, agencies, and elected officials to see industrial symbiosis firsthand, and then bring that excitement and ideas back to Washington State to further IS initiatives here. CSI was also very involved in helping Washington and Oregon allocate funding towards technical assistance programs towards industrial symbiosis. So this is the ISTA program delivery team. And so we've got CSI as the program manager and with unique IS expertise. We've also got Cascade Energy, Resource Recycling Systems, Kalundborg Symbiosis, as was mentioned earlier. Hedsgaard Larsen and Vegan Magoo are also Danish partners, Geosyntec and Jacobs. Angmar Tech is our facility assessment lead. So in alignment with CSI's scope, our scope is at the system level, right? We're going to look at all of the various waste streams of the various partners and opportunities that are at the table, but we're going to connect that at the system level to figure out how that system can work in an industrial symbiosis park. Angmar Tech will also be doing that at the facility level. So for any participating facilities, they will actually deliver map and energy, material and energy flow mapping, process redesign for resource efficiency, technology and infrastructure assessments, and feasibility and risk analysis. So all of that facility assessment data will feed into the system level, but it'll also provide a lot of great data and information and tools for each participating first facility to be able to further their own individual efforts or those efforts in partnership with the system level. So we're really from, at micro to macro here, from facility to system level, and it's really exciting to get to work not only with our Danish team, but with Angmar Tech and the remainder of our great technical experts who are moving forward this work. They all have a variety of different expertises. I do encourage you to go to their websites and learn more about them. And once we get to the process of selecting communities, CSI will work with our technical experts to figure out exactly which team to deploy to your community to make sure that all of the gaps and needs are covered and that we can further the work over the program timeline. So now we're at how to apply. It's I think a fairly straightforward process. We've got a community application. It's an online form. It is available on our website. Those forms are due by July 8th at 5 p.m. The community application form has a variety of questions. Really, they're built to collect as much information as possible to make a determination on next steps. However, because applicants might be in different levels or stages of development, we tried to keep the questions as open and broad as possible. So we really encourage you to tell us as much information you can on your project. I did want to point out this part of the community application form, which is what CSI will evaluate and prioritize. we do have to develop these 6 project proposals as the deliverable to Commerce and for this funding at the end of the timeline, and applications with elements of strong local leadership and community support, long-term economic growth, sustainability and resilience, industrial synergies, resource integration, and geographic diversity will be prioritized in this process. Um, I also want to take this moment to remind folks to please don't forget to attach your additional attachments. So for strong local leadership and community support, it's not required to have a letter of intent to collaborate, but if you do have one, please attach that. We also do need attachments for the Washington Health Environmental Health Disparities Map. If you are in an overburdened census tract, please make sure that you attach that information as well so that we can incorporate that into the prioritization and scoring process. But again, the bullet point at the top here is strong local leadership and community support, a collaborative environment that supports partnership, idea exchanges, ongoing dialogue, and interest in IS at the various levels. But all of these elements are really important to being able to fully develop those project proposals at the end of this time. Here are some key dates. So community application forms are due by July 8th. We will do our best to quickly do that committee review the following week. And then we will announce the selected communities the week of July 20th. For those communities that are selected to move forward in the process, we will do a virtual informational kickoff meeting on August 4th. That meeting will be to start to understand the various partners at the table, start to look at dates for when we can go to your community and do site assessments, a review of the program and your key contacts. And so it'll be all of that great informational detail to get the program kicked off. And then the actual program will kick off the week of August 10th, just, schedule allowing in the various communities. Before we go into the Q&A, I just wanted to point out some additional resources that are available. So as I mentioned, our website, which is at the bottom of this slide here, we do have information on upcoming study tours to Denmark. We have more information on those sample projects that I referenced earlier. We have more information on industrial symbiosis and what it means and how it can be applied. And then there's also the Industrial Symbiosis Conference at the end of this month in Vancouver, Washington, which CSI is hosting. And it's a 2-day conference to really bring forward industrial symbiosis leaders, industry, economic development professionals to not only network, but learn more about industrial symbiosis here in the Northwest. I will stop there and see if Reese has anything to add. Let me stop. Reese, anything you'd like to add there?
Mm, Terrific, Laura. I'm glad you flagged the Industrial Symbiosis Conference coming up in 10 days. It really is an unprecedented convergence of the top industrial symbiosis innovators, practitioners, implementers, policymakers. It's kind of a who's who of who's really driving the industrial symbiosis movement in Oregon and Washington, with a remarkable delegation of Danish uh, leaders in industrial symbiosis making the trip all the way over here. So there'll be over 200 people converging. This is a great, if you're at all intrigued by the idea of industrial symbiosis, think that there might be opportunities where you live. It's an incredible learning opportunity. So I would encourage you to check that out and join us there if you can. Um, and yeah, so I think I'll leave it at that. I'm excited to see what communities apply. Um, and I think we're interested in ones that are really at the beginning of the journey um, in developing their industrial symbiosis awareness, understanding, opportunities, as well as ones that are along the path. So don't be intimidated if you're at the beginning of the journey, but reach out to other partner organizations. Again, industrial symbiosis is all about collaboration. Um, So it's not so much a go it yourself kind of thing, but reach out to partner organizations that that you might want to collaborate with, and that's the key to getting started. So if you've got that, don't hesitate to apply and see if it comes together. Okay, I'll stop there.
Thanks, Reese. Let me just share my screen again. So we are at the end of our presentation and time for questions. I will leave this up here while we wait to see if any questions come through the Q&A box. My contact information is on this slide, so you're welcome to reach out, email, check out our website. I don't think I do have something. How can businesses apply? So the question that came in through the chat is how can businesses apply? It's the same process for any eligible entity. It's that community application form. Actually, let me see if I can just take you guys there while we're here. Um, so, um, this is the application. Let me stop this, make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Sorry. Yep. Okay. So this is the application that I mentioned earlier on our website. And so, oops, let me go back. So it starts with a description of the program. It's the same thing that was on the slide that I showed about how we will evaluate and prioritize. It collects some information on who you are, who's applying, what's the name of your organization. And then it really starts to ask more questions about your local interest, if you have any partners, if you have familiarity with the concepts. As Reese mentioned, though, if you are in the beginning of the process, please just say that. Everyone's going to come in at different phases of development. Um, if you've already been partnering with certain industry or have considered who you might partner with, specify if any, right? We have if any here. If you have an identified location, if not, that's okay too. If you do, please let us know about land ownership and control. Um, and really that's it. So the 13 total questions. Submit that by July 8th. And that's the same application for everybody. Let's see here. So the next question is a planning level alternatives assessment type project acceptable? Um, Reese, do you maybe want to take that one? Or I'm assuming, Jennifer, that you're asking whether maybe if you're earlier on in the process.
Yeah, Jennifer, absolutely. In fact, this technical assistance program is really designed to help you, you know, begin by kind of opening up the lens, convening all the key players, identifying a range of potential opportunities, um, and then to begin to filter and narrow down to the most catalytic kind of symbiosis capital project that can really spark an industrial symbiosis uh, park in your area. So, yes, if folks that have already got their, they know exactly the project they want to build, and they don't really need this technical assistance if they've already decided what they want to do. This is for folks that are kind of open open to the potentials, to go through a process, to bring incredible team of experts in and help you navigate your way to choose the real right project that can unlock a dynamic industrial symbiosis park. So all that to say, yes, absolutely, Jennifer.
Thanks, Reese. The next question is, any thoughts on how Washington and Oregon utilities help get the word out on this assistance program? My first thought would be doing some advertising through our industrial waste program. So right now, we have advertised it through our vast contact list of all of the folks who have gone to Denmark and are interested IS practitioners or stakeholders. All of the communities that we have worked with in the past. We also worked with partner agencies such as the Washington Ports Organization to get it out through their networks. But yes, Eric, if you have a contact information or you can see mine, I'll put it back up on the screen here in a sec. Please share it with everyone. We also have a one pager that if that's easy to share out through your networks. Um, I will note though that this is for Washington specific. Although Reese, do you maybe want to talk about the upcoming Oregon opportunity?
Sure. In the 2026 legislative session, the Oregon legislature, on an overwhelmingly bipartisan basis, passed framework legislation to advance industrial symbiosis in the state of Oregon, and that included the development of a roadmap, statewide roadmap to accelerate industrial symbiosis development and a technical assistance program, uh, and in their case, to assist four specific communities that were identified in the legislation. But in many ways, it was modeled on the Washington program the same program to deliver that crucial technical assistance to communities to help them develop their symbiosis initiatives. So if you have facilities and partners in Klamath Falls, Astoria, Boardman, Oregon, uh, and East Portland, those are the four communities that were called out this time.
Thank you, Reese. One of the things that we also said that we would do as part of this proposal is, I think we're going to have probably more need than we have funding for, but working closely with Commerce, we will share that information with them so that hopefully further technical assistance or further support can be allocated to those communities in the future. So if you are interested, and even if you aren't selected, that's always a place for future partnerships or identification of needs that we can continue to share at the Commerce level and then also within our own broad networks. Let's see here. Question is, are there any examples of an already existing industrial symbiosis park that you can share with us and what is contained within the park? I'm a visual person and would like to see what one looks like. I might call back on Reese for an example here.
Yeah, I was just sorry, I was just hunting through my email to try to find. There's a wonderful article in the Tri-Cities Business Herald, on the Port of Pasco's Industrial Symbiosis Park, which is a very mature proposal. So it would be a greenfield development, and they got a nice visual of it in that newspaper. Uh, but as I was searching, I wasn't able to find it and post it. There's also great visuals from the Port of Morrow on kind of the industrial symbiosis part, um, that they've developed over the last few decades and are evolving to the next levels. That's in, yeah, Port of Morrow and Boardman, Oregon. And we've got these, we can follow up, I think, with these visuals. The Kallenborg Symbiosis folks have an incredible visual of the Kallenborg Symbiosis Park, which is the most advanced in the world, quite extensive and mature. And there's also a great visual of Green Lab in Denmark, in a town called Skiva, that was a greenfield park. It was just farmland 10 years ago. In the last 5 or 6 years, as they've really gone into build and deploy mode, they've deployed about $450 million worth of infrastructure and built 6 facilities. They've got a great visual. So there's a variety of models. This is the Kallenborg symbiosis model, and you can see, you can kind of see flows of what those are energy, water, and material flows between facilities. And there's, I don't know, what, 15, 18 different large scale facilities. A company called Novo Nordisk is the maybe the anchor tenant in some ways, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturers in the world. Even though this is a town of 18,000 people, uh, they've got the biggest manufacturer of insulin, and now Ozempic and Wegovy, those whatever those are, they invented that. Anyway, they're anchor tenants here, but they're major energy facilities, a variety of other facilities that are sharing energy, water, materials, and you can see how they're flowing. Each one of those uh, uh, connections represents a bilateral agreement, sometimes trilateral, to share resources in a mutually economically beneficial way. So they don't do anything unless it makes economic sense to all the parties involved. And that's kind of the basis of what makes industrial symbiosis collaborations work.
Thank you, Reese. We also have in the chat our team working in the background found it and posted it in there. One of the other things, so as part of this request for a proposal to implement this program, the Department also of Commerce also requested that CSI create some deliverables, including engagement and educational materials. And so we will be putting out case studies, explainers on a variety of industrial symbiosis approaches. So if you are interested in receiving those, you can go to our website and sign up for our um, mailing list, or just email me and I can add you, um, so that we can also share those as you continue to want to learn more. So thank you for that question, Lisita. I'll just give it a minute here for more questions. There's the contact information again if you'd like to learn more about upcoming engagement materials. CSI also does a lot of webinars, informational webinars, webinars about IS and current projects. So again, if you want to learn more, just reach out and we can put you on our mailing list.
Well, I would just love to see many of you in Vancouver in the 28th through 30th of this month. Uh, Please come introduce yourself, say hi. If you're able to make it to the Pacific Northwest Industrial Symbiosis Conference, that's going to be quite a crossroads and quite a convergence of great people.
Oh, let's see, I got another question here. Um, If we have a private industrial business park developing over the next 2 years and we need assistance with comprehensive land use planning and not physical project design, would that be a good request for funding, planning level funding, in order to work with local agencies and port authorities? I do know that land use and permitting and sort of those type of activities are something that we will include and want to include. That is part of the feasibility component of it and identifying locations. So yes, that is something that we anticipate that we will be providing and is part of the process already. So if that's something that you are interested in wanting to further, um, we are prepared to do that. I will give it another minute if there are any questions. Otherwise, we can wrap up a little bit early, but we'll just give it one more minute. That always feels like the longest minute. Well, thank you all again for joining us today. If you do have any questions that you think about afterwards, again, my contact information is on the slide, or just go to our website. You can track us down there. Yeah, and we look forward to receiving your applications or your questions. And again, thank you so much for taking the time today. Bye, everyone.